Welcome back to part 3 of the Legends of Young County and the death of Colonel Alfred T. Obenchain. Frontier life was harsh, especially for those new to the Texas frontier of 1862. Learning to survive the 100-plus temperatures, below freezing winds, sleet, and snow of a Texas winter, the threat of bandits, war, and the constant threat of Indian raids made you value the bonds of trust and friendship between members of these small communities. These settlers lived by their own set of rules and enjoyed the independence of living on the frontier. The small town of Belknap was this type of community. It had grown up on the outskirts of the fort, being home to many of the soldiers' families and new settlers. The only force standing between these hardy settlers and the Indian threat was a small militia force that would one day become the Texas Rangers. The Rangers had been created by the governor to protect frontier settlements, but with the start of the war, they were conscripted, or to speak plainly, drafted into the Confederate Army. One of its residents and leader of the Rangers was a popular young man named James Jackson Cureton, known to many in the community as Jack Cureton. Even though he was stationed at Fort Belknap and living within the small community of Belknap, Jack soon found himself now a captain of Company B of the Texas Frontier Regiment, Texas Militia, under the command of Colonel A.T. Obenchain. James Jackson Cureton had moved to Young County in 1854 and was an experienced Indian fighter and a Texas Ranger, and a veteran of the Mexican-American War. As a Ranger, he had been with Sorrel Ross and had been part of the rescue of Cynthia Ann Parker, the mother of Chief Guana Parker, from the Comanche tribe of 1860. He lived in a small town in Belknap with his wife and children, his brother Henry, and his sister, Ms. Marzie Cureton. Ms. Marzie was either single or a widow. History doesn't record, but she was often visited by a friend of the family, a man named Sam Newton. Sam Newton was a man living in the area of present-day Fort Griffin and had become a friend of the Cureton family soon after their arrival. His visits to the Cureton family were considered to be business visits, but it was evident to almost everyone that Sam was fond of Ms. Marzie. When Colonel Obenchain and company arrived at Fort Belknap, his authoritarian nature drove him to quickly order the small town of Belknap placed under martial law. From this point on, no one was legally allowed to enter or leave the town without his approval. No one knows what prompted him to take this action. The order, however, immediately invoked anger in the community and began to divide the citizens as well as the troops about Obenchain and his style of leadership. Captain Cureton and Sam Newton saw no reason that Sam's comings and goings should need Obenchain's approval, and like many in the community, they chose to ignore this order. A man like Obenchain fed off his power over others, and when it was reported back to him that many in the community were openly defying him, he was enraged. Then, learning that one of his captains under his command was defying his order, he acted immediately and ordered his arrest. Captain Cureton was taken from his home, arrested, and charged with the offense of failing to obey the orders of a senior officer. As the local town hero was carried off to Fort Belknap in shackles, Obenchain must have been pleased with himself, sending a message to everyone in the area that he was the ultimate authority on the frontier now. What he didn't understand was the bonds of friendship and loyalty that existed between Cureton and the other Rangers and Cureton and the people of Belknap. The man that Charles Goodnight characterized as a tyrant had set in motion a series of events that would eventually cost him his life.